I tend to use the word whatever in a way that conveys indifference to what someone is saying. I use it as a slang word, which means something like, sure, whatever you say. It is very dismissive, if not outright impolite or offensive. Apparently, I'm not the only person who does this. The word whatever has its own Wikipedia page. One of the sentences in the article stood out to me. In the 20th century and early 21st century, the word became a sentence in its own right. In effect, an interjection, often but not always, used as a passive-aggressive conversational blocking tool, leaving the responder without a convincing retort. 10 years ago, a poll was taken, and the word whatever was voted to be the most annoying word in conversation. It might be the one word that best captures the spirit of our era, especially in a world where truth is elusive, very little seems certain, authority figures are no longer trusted, and so the best response is a cynical whatever. It is an easy way out. The world has become so intolerable in some respects that many of us want to check out, at least emotionally. Adults may not use the word as much as young people do, but the attitude is shared by all. In his letter to the Philippians, the Apostle Paul expressed a whatever attitude as well, but his has a very different tone. He begins by addressing the beloved, which alerts us to the fact that empathy, indifference, dismissiveness, and cynicism will not be present in his words. He employs his readers to think different thoughts and have a better attitude than they might be prone to have, given their circumstances. The entire letter is, in fact, a joy-filled letter, encouraging the Philippians to have a positive attitude because their attitude has been sullen, bad-tempered, sulky, and gloomy. They had a very first century whatever attitude. Remember, this is Paul's first new church start among the Gentiles, and they were experiencing external intimidation and internal strife. Being the first Gentile church could not have been easy. It's like being an inclusive Catholic community in Texas. It would have been so easy for them to just say to Paul, whatever, and then give up. In addition to their circumstances, Paul is likely writing this letter from prison, so he could have had a more cynical attitude as well. And yet, he decides to send an encouraging letter to a group of people he clearly and dearly loves to lift up their spirits in dark times. He stresses the importance of maintaining their gentle nature, of laying aside their concerns, and of a general spirit of prayer and thanksgiving. Like a theological chiropractor, Paul is giving them an attitude adjustment. He knows that long-term survival depends on turning a potentially cynical whatever attitude into a totally different animal, one that seeks to think about the world despite their circumstances in a totally different way. So he writes, "Finally, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is gracious, if there is any excellence, and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things." In other words, there are plenty of options to fill up your thoughts, but think about these things, because that's the only way you're going to make it, given your current circumstances. Our situation is different today, but they are also cause for sullen, cynical, rolling of the eyes, whatever attitude. With our current state of affairs, this is a time for everyone to self-reflect. What thoughts are occupying our minds? Do we have a cynical, whatever attitude? Or do we have Paul's version of a whatever attitude? In a sermon about this particular passage, the Reverend Dr. Gilbert Bowen said, "The Apostle Paul does not say, 'Finally, beloved, whatever is tragic, whatever is scandalous, whatever is gruesome, whatever is criminal, whatever is despicable, whatever is ugly, whatever is degrading, fill your thoughts with these things.'" Paul didn't say that, but that's what many of us think about, is it not? We tend to think the worst, myself included. But now is not the time for cynical, indifferent, whatever attitudes. At this moment, I happen to be going through a very stressful time in my life, but rather than give up and say, "Whatever," now is the time for positive engagement, a moment to focus on and give birth to whatever is true, honorable, just, pure, pleasing, and commendable. So let us search our hearts, and just as importantly, let us make room in our hearts for these things. Hopefully, whatever someday will lose its Wikipedia page.